Today I will explain the camera aperture. Perhaps everyone felt this when taking pictures. You cannot take the picture you want just by turning the dial on the camera. This is because the camera needs to change three types of aperture, ISO sensitivity and shutter speed to get the desired picture. If you need to adjust each item, some parts need to be lowered and some have to be raised. Exposure triangle. The exposure triangle is a common way of associating the three variables that determine the exposure of a photograph: aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. One must balance all three of these to achieve the desired result, an adjustment of one requiring adjustment of at least one of the others. Aperture. By adjusting the amount of light passing through the lens. The more you open the aperture, the brighter the picture. And the closer you close the aperture, the darker the picture. Aperture affects not only the brightness of the photo, but also the depth of the photo. The more you open the aperture, the lighter the depth of field, and the closer you close the aperture, the deeper the depth of field. Aperture affects not only the brightness of the photo, but also the depth of the photo. The more you open the aperture, the lighter the depth of field, and the closer you close the aperture, the deeper the depth of field. Camera aperture, shutter speed, and ISO sensitivity all have an effect on the amount of light intensity. This is because, in some cases, when the photo is dark, you know that the desired amount of light will come into the photo you want to adjust when you adjust the part. Relationship between camera aperture and shutter speed. Camera aperture, manipulated when giving depth of field to the subject, depth of field when viewing photos. The background is blown away and only the model is in focus. Depth of field, when the focus is on a point on the subject. The range is clearly captured back and forth from that point. Camera aperture, shutter speed, ISO. Out of focus. Pan focus. What is the meaning of out focus? If the image or camera, telescope, or other equipment is out of focus, the visible edges are unclear. Pan focus refers to where everything in the image is in focus, from foreground to background. As a product or technology, it indicates how a lens is designed. Shallow depth of field where focus is formed in a short section as shown in the figure. It can be distinguished by a large deep depth of field that can capture the focus over a relatively large section. What is a shallow depth of field? A shallow depth of field and a small depth of field are terms used interchangeably. They are also referred to as narrow, or even the depths of field. What is the depth of field? Depth of field is the area of acceptable sharpness in front of and behind the subject in which the lens is focused. Put simply, it refers to how blurry or sharp the area is around your subject. Now, looking at the numbers displayed on the camera info screen, we will check the brightness and darkness of the photo according to the change in the aperture number. Shutter speed. If it is shorter than 1 second, it is displayed as a fraction of a second. 1/125, 1/160, 1/200, 1/250. Depending on the camera, it may be briefly expressed. Aperture value: f4, f4.5, f5, f5.6. Today we have discussed the basic camera aperture. In addition, shutter speed and ISO is considered essential for the photo shoot. In the next video, if it helps, click the subscribe, like, and notify button. Thank you.